Hello there, this is not Chris from the Review Cave, but is instead Mr. Cake Dragon Man, one of the editors for the Review Cave. And for those who have been wondering where this video has been for the past few months, well, I'll be honest with you, it's entirely my fault. Certain things have been happening over the world, and it has not left me in the best financial or mentally stable sort of way, just due to the fact that I had other things I need to do, I had other people I had to edit for, and it was not fair to Chris, it was not fair to the people that he had just gained. I am so proud of the work that he's done since my absence, but I am here to say I am now 100% back. I will be to this channel and other channels as well, and I will try my best not to stress myself out. And, well, here's what you guys have been waiting for. Part 3 of If Ben 10 Joined the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Enjoy.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
What's up, guys? Chris from the Review Cave here, and you've asked for it, you're gonna get it. What If Ben 10 Was In The MCU Part 3 is finally here. For this one, we're starting off with Ben 10 Alien Force getting its own trilogy within Phase 3. So, in this part of the What If, I will contain 3 films. 2 Alien Force films, and in between them will be Civil War. Now, Civil War will be shortened because the vast majority of Civil War will remain the same, aside from Ben's intervention, which will be placed later on in the film. Things from Alien Force, as well as from Ultimate Alien, and turning them into their own film. Now, I wanted to put Ultimate Alien at some point in this What If series, but due to the amount of time and movies that have been out for the MCU at this point, as much as I love Ultimate Alien, I'll just decide whether or not to put in Ultimate Alien at some later date. Now, 3 films in the same video is similar to what I did in the first part. Well, this one I'm going to go with a bit more detail. Another thing that's going to be changing is that from now on, I will be having a like goal for every single What If video. So for this one, the like goal will be 100 likes. If you get this video up to 100 likes, then I will get part 4 of What If Ben 10 Was In The MCU out within the month. That way I can have more of a consistent schedule, and I'm even more motivated to finish up this part as quickly as I can so you guys can enjoy it. Now then, let's get started with What If Ben 10 Was In The MCU, part 3, with the first Alien Force film, A Hidden Enemy. Now the movie's going to start with a couple of cops going off to a factory after getting word of some suspicious characters moving into it. They enter the factory, it's pitch black, so both of them end up trying to look around for anyone that's in there. And they come across a weird room with tanks. They seem like fish tanks. Then all of a sudden, a big brown alien with an octopus head with a type of brain sticking out shows up and knocks both of them out. Screen cuts to black, we see the Marvel logo.
Y'all ready to get funky?
We get an establishing shot of the town as Ben is kind of narrating that after the events of the previous movie with Ghost Freak and the -10, Ben, Gwen, and Kevin decided to just essentially lay low, be kids for a while, since the events of the -10 movie took place during a 2-week break from school. So that gave Ben and Gwen enough time to be heroes along with their grandpa Max, driving them around the country. We learned that Ben is in fact taking it easy from being a hero for the time being until his year in high school is over. Ben's a little over 14 years old. He's reaching the end of his freshman year. Gwen's a sophomore at a different school, and Max actually opened up an auto body shop in Bellwood, and since Kevin didn't have anywhere to live, he let Kevin live with him and work off rent and everything as an employee at his auto body shop. But Kevin is honestly very excited because the idea of working on cars really excites him, and he jokingly says that he's going to build his own awesome car one day. And he's also kind of excited to check on some of the shield tech that Max has in the rust bucket and see if he can tune it up. So Ben, Gwen, and Kevin decide to be a team since this is time for school. Ben decides to take Cap's advice and just relax for a bit, be a regular high school student, get his grades up, stuff like that. And when the summer comes around, he will go back into the hero work. He will only use the Omnitrix when it's absolutely necessary. So this is real growth for Ben, since when he first got it, he was insanely eager to fight villains and stuff like that. Now he's getting more and more responsible with his powers. So the movie's going to be starting off at a soccer game where Ben is about to take a leading goal from the opposing team. If they get the goal, it ends up going into overtime. Ben manages to catch the ball, leading his team to victory. Ben is kind of hailed as like a hometown hero because of this, because it was like a championship game. When everyone was done cheering and everything, this girl from the school newspaper, Julie, shows up and ends up asking Ben for an interview. He says yes if she doesn't mind to walk with him for a bit because he's on his way to see his grandpa and tell him the news. So after the interview, Ben ends up asking Julie for a number so that they can hang out again, and then he's on his way. He goes to the auto body shop to see if Max is there and runs into Kevin. He asks Kevin where Max is. He says that Max is probably at the rust bucket. He said he had a few things to deal with. Ben heads over to the trailer park where Max has had the rust bucket parked for a while. When he gets there, the rust bucket is empty. But out of nowhere, the same alien we see from the beginning of the movie shows up and attacks Ben. In that moment, Ben tries to use the Omnitrix, but for some reason the Omnitrix is not working.
Oh, man.
He ends up kicking a table up at the alien and runs outside. He gets shot in the back of the head with a tranquilizer dart, and lo and behold, Nick Fury shows up. Fury ends up heading to the auto body shop with Ben, and Gwen meets them there, telling Ben, Gwen, and Kevin for the past couple of days there has been sightings of alien activity in Bellwood, as well as in multiple countries around the world. He sent Grandpa Max out with Maria Hill to do some rounds and find out what the hell is going on. Hill returned, but Max ended up disappearing. He tells him that they were ambushed by the enemy. By the time it was all over, Max was gone. Hill is currently treated by S.H.I.E.L.D. medics, and Nick Fury is asking the team for their help. Ben agrees because he wants to find his grandpa. Gwen agrees, and Kevin also agrees. But they also bring up the problem that the Omnitrix hasn't been working at all. Ben says it might be because he hasn't used it like at all in roughly a year, but they're not sure yet. Ben assures them that due to the martial arts training that Gwen has been giving him over the past couple of months, he'll be just fine. And Kevin has actually helped make some nifty shield weapons. Ben, Gwen, Kevin, and Nick Fury end up getting some intel that the Forever Knights are in fact meeting up with another party for an exchange of weaponry. So they do a stakeout. They see the same aliens that attacked Ben in the rust bucket meet with the Forever Knights to give these very bizarre looking weapons. So in that moment, Fury tells them to start fighting. Kevin absorbs some steel and starts fighting off the aliens. Gwen fights off the Forever Knights, and Fury kind of does both. Ben also does what he can with the weapons that he got from Kevin until this giant hulking Forever Knight shows up and tries to take down Ben. In that moment, the Omnitrix starts to shine, and then its appearance starts to change. He slams down the Omnitrix, and he ends up splitting himself up, surrounding the Forever Knight, and does the wall of sound. Sonic screeches are enough to knock the guy unconscious and break his armor. Ben turns back and realizes that the Omnitrix was upgraded and actually put it into his subconscious that he can in fact swap aliens. So he slams the Omnitrix on his chest and turns it into another new alien, Jet Ray. Flies around and shoots the lasers from his eyes and tail against the Forever Knights and the other DN aliens. When it's all said and done, Ben turns back to normal. Really excited that he's got new aliens along with his old ones, but also the fact that he can swap between aliens now. So Ben goes up to the DN aliens, who refer to themselves as the DN aliens. They find out that they're trying to terraform the Earth for their leaders. The Omnitrix tells Ben something like DNA corruption and stuff like that, and for some reason Ben grabs the DN alien's head. He sees a vision of the DN alien thing, and then when he snaps out of it, the alien reverts back to being human, and the alien thing shrivels up. They realize that all these DN aliens are actually possessed people. They manage to interrogate one of the DN aliens, and with the information they have, they pinpointed a specific location, the same factory that was at the beginning of the film. Once they go in there, they meet up with Grandpa Max, who was in fact being held captive because he had a lot of information. Now what happens next is that they're encountered by a group of DN aliens and a large, hulking, white-looking alien with a purple face who calls himself the Hybrid. Basically saying that the Hybrid are the superior race in the universe, and they are going to make it so that they are the only ones. So Ben ends up turning into another new alien, Humongosaur, and starts fighting this DN alien, while everyone else fights off against the DN alien army that is currently in that factory. The fight is pretty even, but thanks to Gwen and Kevin, Gwen having more of a mastery over magic and Kevin having more fighting styles and techniques, managed to deal with them pretty easily. But then they realize that Grandpa Max starts running off towards Ben. While Ben is having a hard time against the Hybrid, he is in fact getting the upper hand. But all of a sudden, a second Hybrid shows up and they double team Ben. So when this happens, Ben tries to turn into other aliens. He tests out Spider Monkey to try and get some agility out, but still not not enough. He changes into Chromastone, and while it does do something, the hybrid still managed to get a couple of hits in. He turns into Swampfire. Realizing that the fire does do something, Ben continues to use Swampfire and then swaps over the Heat Blast. But the DNA aliens manage to overpower him at the very last minute due to the fact that it's 2 against 1, and Ben, due to a bunch of rapid transformations, ended up powering out the Omnitrix. But before the DNA aliens could hit him, Max ends up showing up and tells them that the device the Forever Knights were developing set it into an overload. He called it the Null Void Projector. A couple of years ago, they ended up getting it from a race of aliens, and due to Hydra taking over S.H.I.E.L.D. a couple of years ago. The Forever Knights managed to find it, and then the aliens ended up getting it in exchange for more weapons. Max found it, and he set it over to overdrive, and it ended up exploding, creating a giant red sphere, and when it dissipated, the hybrids were gone, and so was Max. Fury is also physically upset, but he stays resolute and stoic as he always does to try and keep things together. He tells Ben and everyone that the intel that Max gave to him just now before running off was that there were multiple areas across the country that these hybrid are currently using this type of alien tech to disguise their faces as if they were never altered at all. That way they can blend into the populace and turn more people, so it's less and less likely that there are aliens around and that there's nothing wrong. Ben ends up saying, what can we do to stop this? Nick Fury says, are you sure? Because this could take a long time. Ben says, I'm sure, and asks Gwen and Kevin if they want to help him out and avenge Grandpa Max. Without any hesitation, they both say yes. Fury says he'll make some calls, so they manage to pull some strings, and Ben and Gwen are exempt from school, with an excuse that there is some family business that they have to deal with, which isn't entirely a lie. Ben, Gwen, and Kevin get their stuff packed. They're about to go into the rust bucket, but Kevin says, let's go in my ride, and pulls off the curtains to this green car that he built himself. The three of them get into the car, and they start driving off, and that's where we're going to leave the movie. Credits roll. Now we're going to get 2 post-credit scenes. First post-credit scene involves a hybrid talking to what appears to be the High Council.
We lost one of our factories and 2 of our strongest generals. The plan is still going along smoothly. We should be ready within 1 year from now.
And with that, we cut to black. Credits keep rolling, then we get the second post-credit scene. We do in fact get scenes of a crashed spaceship and 4 aliens walking out. A red-looking one, turtle-looking one, a being in a type of iron suit, an amphibious-looking one, and a giant yellow alien which seems to have jackhammers parts to his hands. And the movie ends. And now, we make it to Captain America Civil War. Captain America Civil War, up until a specific point, is exactly the same. The entire movie has no real changes. The only change is that when both sides are recruiting heroes for their causes, Falcon ends up bringing up Ben to Cap due to the story he told about him. Cap says that he refuses to involve Ben and Gwen into their fight because they're still kids. They shouldn't be involved in what's going on right now. And Falcon shakes his head and says, alright, you're the boss. And they still end up recruiting Ant-Man as planned. Now, as this is going on, we cut to Ben, Gwen, and Kevin in the car driving cross country, talking about the recent Forever Knight bases and hybrid bases that they managed to take down along the past couple of months. Until Ben ends up getting a bizarre message saying Captain America and Iron Man are currently about to have a battle at this specific location. Please make it here as soon as you can. You might be the only one that can stop them. And he ends up getting deleted aside from the location. But they realize that it's in Germany and they're in the US. They don't have no idea how to get there when Gwen reveals that she's actually been learning a new trick. She chants a spell and opens up a pink portal in front of them, and they drive right through it. When they get out, it shows that they are in Germany, and they're only a few minutes away from the airport. Now, the airport battle starts exactly how it was before, but this time, as Ant-Man becomes Giant Man and Spider-Man starting to swing around him, a big crash is seen, and it is Ben as Humongosaur, telling for both sides to just stop. Both sides have no idea what's going on, but Cap recognizes the insignia on his chest, and he ends up trying to convince them to stop fighting because whatever they're fighting about, Ben understands it, but he says that it's still no excuse for them to be fighting like this. Now, some people are in fact not listening, so Ben changes into accelerate and moves at high speeds to try and knock everyone to the ground. It turns into Crash Hopper, jumps into the air, and then turns into Spider Monkey using his webs to tie up Giant Man and Spider-Man. Of course, that doesn't last for long, but it's enough time for Gwen to show up and put everyone in a magical force field, separating both sides. Ben says that you guys have to work this out. You can't just go... Tony says that they're being lectured by a kid and it's kind of humiliating, even though he's right. And at this moment, Gwen reveals that they can just solve all this right here, right now. She knows a spell where she can tell where someone is telling the truth or not. So Bucky walks up, and the one that actually asks Bucky the question is T'Challa. Bucky says no, and Gwen uses her spell and says that he's telling the truth. He wasn't there. Bucky also tells them about what happened while he was in captivity after he was arrested the first time. He then tells them that there are other Winter Soldiers, essentially, other super soldiers, that are being kept in captivity in a specific location, and that the guy that showed up essentially wants to kill them or use them. He tells Cap the location. Iron Man actually agrees to go along with them to help them out. T'Challa ends up following them as well, but in secret. Despite everything that happened, he's not fully convinced that Bucky is telling the whole truth. What happens next is that, despite everything that happened, Ant-Man manages to get away, so he is not under house arrest. He manages to sneak away with Ben, Gwen, and Kevin, and Spider-Man ends up leaving with Happy. Wanda still decides to go into hiding. Everyone else is still arrested. And then Civil War ends up ending the same as it did before. Now, Ben is kind of upset that the Avengers did kind of break up after this, despite his intervention. But Gwen does say things could have been a lot worse. If they hadn't shown up, who knows how many people would have been injured or, God forbid, killed. And the movie ends with Cap leaving a cell phone for Tony, stating that if he ever needs his help, to give a call. Now, moving on, we got the next Alien Force movie. Ben 10 Alien Force, The Wrath of Aggro Gore. Now, this movie starts off with Ben, Gwen, and Kevin just recently dismantling a hybrid ship and stopping their latest weather tower. When this happens, Fury actually mentions that there are 5 aliens that have been sighted and that they need to go check it out and hopefully arrest them to make sure that they don't cause any more damage. Ben, Gwen, and Kevin end up reaching Washington. They see that there is an alien using water to try and get everyone away. Another alien inside an iron suit shooting some kind of radiation beam. An amphibious alien that manages to shoot electricity and travel along electrical currents. Another alien that is able to create pseudo-earthquakes. But another alien is trying to just calm everyone down, but is resorted to using his powers to create a wind funnel. And in the middle is this little hedgehog guy who Kevin ends up recognizing from his older days. Argent. Argent tells everyone to stop and basically goes up to give Kevin a handshake. They say that they used to be Ravager buddies. Argent ended up crash landing on Earth and Kevin kind of befriended him, and they kind of got into trouble together until they got into a fight and just flat out separated. Argent says that they found these guys crash landed and that they're escaping some guy calling himself Aggro Gore, who's been wanting to try and take their abilities. Ben's confusing the fact that someone can actually steal alien abilities and absorb them. Argent says that this guy Aggro Gore has similar powers to Kevin, but he's going to a whole new extreme. There's someone in the galaxy that Aggro Gore himself wants to take down so he can end up being seen as the ultimate force in the universe, and he needs these particular 5 aliens' powers to do it. Gavin understands and asks Ben if they should help protect them. Ben says they'll help protect them, but on the condition that they don't cause any more collateral damage and stop getting people to be panicked. Now, all of them are kind of a group of misfits and don't really like each other, but they all agree that they have to stick together and tolerate each other so they can find ways off of Earth so they can return to their home planets. Now, as this goes on, Ben ends up realizing that he can in fact scan their DNA. So the Omnitrix scans all their DNAs, and he's got the transformations for all 5 of them. Now, what happens next is that a group of robots end up showing up, as well as some Forever Knights. Ben and the gang are confused with the fact that the Forever Knights are using these kinds of robots since they've never done this before. They all end up fighting all these robots together. The 5 aliens tend to trip over each other and get into arguments, leading to them getting hit a lot. Ben continues to shift between his new and old aliens. First, he turns into Accelerate to try and get rid of as many aliens as possible. He turns into Jet Ray to fly around at high speeds and shoot all the aliens and Forever Knights. He shifts into Cannonbolt to slam down and roll over a bunch of the robots. Then into Swamp Fire to throw his plant seeds to bind all the Forever Knights. And while most of the 5 aliens have been arguing, they did do a pretty good job of defending themselves. By the end of it, the forces that attacked them have been dealt with. However, one thing they didn't count on was Aggro Gore showing up and ended up making a deal with the hybrids. 2 hybrids show up and they start fighting. The fight goes on. Ben turns into Humongosaur to try and take on one hybrid. Kevin and Gwen fight another one. And the 5 aliens, along with Argent, who, while scared, tries his best to help his new friends, try and fight off Aggro Gore. Aggro Gore is impressed by this, but he also absorbed a couple of electricity, and he even absorbed specific metals to try and harden his own body. He manages to use his staff, which is a particular weapon he made, to incapacitate all of them. When that happens, Argent tries to stop him, but Aggro Gore slaps him aside against the wall, and Argent is knocked out. Kevin tries to go up to Aggro Gore to get a good hit in after Aggro Gore essentially took down one of his old friends. Aggro Gore absorbs the metal from Kevin, and once he grabs him, and throws Kevin to the side, saying, "We may be the same when it comes to powers, but you are far too pathetic. You don't go far enough when it comes to absorbing you're afraid of losing your mind. He then uses a device to teleport him and the 5 aliens away. Ben and Gwen manage to get a hold and take down the hybrids. The hybrids manage to escape themselves, but at a cost with the 5 aliens getting taken away. Argent is really upset about what happened, and he vows to find a way to help them. He actually reveals to the others that he actually put tracking devices on the 5 of them in case they were ever separated. Now Ben, Gwen, and Kevin are grateful for this because now they can take the fight straight to Aggro Gore. As this is going on, and while the team is making the preparations to find Aggro Gore has the 5 aliens in 5 specific pods, and then he begins to activate the pods, grab a device, and starts to absorb the energy from all 5 of the aliens. In the blink of an eye, all their powers have been drained, and they're essentially husks of their former selves. And Aggro Gore has turned into this amalgamated form of all 5 aliens and himself. Full of power, he's like,
Now no one can stop me. Not even you, Thanos.
And then we cut to Aggro Gore actually trying to create a huge ruckus in a hybrid camp.
Skip it about that up.
Ben, Gwen, and Kevin actually manage to find where he is by using Gwen's teleportation and clairvoyance spells. When they make it, they see Aggro Gore's new look. Kevin is getting flashbacks of when he absorbed the Omnitrix's energy and the DNA of Ben's 10 aliens and how it messed with his mind. Aggro Gore seems to be more in the right mind, but Kevin can tell that the insurge of power is in fact messing with Aggro Gore's mind and slowly driving him mad. He continues to spew out that he is the strongest in the universe now, but he will continue to drain the life energy from other aliens so he can become even more powerful so that even the Mad Titan himself will fear in my presence. The group don't know what he's talking about, but Ben transforms into Wrath to try and get a hold of him. Kevin absorbs the metal that's in the area and he goes off to fight, and Gwen follows suit. The hybrid end up asking for a type of truce so that they can take care of this enemy. They agree, and it's a fight between Team Tennyson along with the hybrid commander fighting against Aggro Gore. Aggro Gore is using the influx of powers that he obtained from the 5 aliens, shooting high-density water waves against them and combining it with electrical pulses. The bioelectricity ends up shocking the hybrid and Kevin since he kind of covered himself in metal. It conducted the electricity, giving him a lot of damage. He then creates an air typhoon, moving everyone back. But Ben also transforms into another alien, calling himself Lone Star, and ended up creating his own field of magnetism to create a metal wall to block the way. Ben asks Gwen to make a portal behind Aggro Gore, and then in that moment Ben shifts into Cannonbolt and lunges full speed and smacks into Aggro Gore, and Aggro Gore smacks against the iron wall he created. Aggro Gore may be on the ground, but he's still smiling. He is basically untouchable, and he can't be injured. But Ben comes up with an idea. Aggro Gore is as strong because he has the power of all 5 of those aliens added onto himself. If he can do the same thing he did against Kevin, then Aggro Gore will turn back to normal and they can take him down easy. But it'll be a tough one. So Ben comes up with the idea to transform into the aliens that Aggro Gore absorbed to counteract all their attacks. Aggro Gore created a wind tunnel again, but Ben transformed into Terraspin and countered it. Aggro Gore decided to use Energy Blast. Ben turns into NRG to counter it. Aggro Gore creates a Seismic Wave. Ben turns into Armadillo to counter that as well. Aggro Gore uses a Bioelectricity. Ben turns into Amphibian to counter that. He uses Water Waves. Ben turns into Water Hazard to counter it as well. This is a constant back and forth. Ben knows that the Omnitrix doesn't have enough charge for him to continue countering like this. The fight is fierce, and Ben even turns into Swampfire and Humongosaur a few times to try and shake things up. As this is going on, Kevin gets up, and then he shoots Aggro Gore in the back with a gun that he managed to pick up from one of the DNA aliens on the ground. Distracted, Ben turns into 4 arms and knocks Aggro Gore to the ground with a well-placed punch to the face. Aggro Gore tries to get up, but Gwen manages to create a force field around him. The barrier starts to crack. But right at the moment that the barrier cracks, Ben turns into Feedback and goes up close to Aggro Gore, grabs him, and does the same thing he did to Kevin, and siphons out all of the energy that he absorbed, turning Aggro Gore back to normal. Aggro Gore struggled, but Ben kept himself grounded, and Gwen helped as well. Aggro Gore's back to normal, and Kevin managed to knock him out. Ben has the energy of all 5 aliens, and Ben asks Gwen to see if she can open a portal to where the 5 aliens are, and she says she can, but it'll take a few minutes to try and find their life signs. They manage to do it, and before the Omnitrix times out, Ben manages to give the energy that he absorbed from Aggro Gore back into the 5 aliens, saving their lives. The 5 of them are in fact grateful to Ben for saving their lives. Ben calls an old friend to try and take care of this alien. It's Tetrax. He actually managed to get a hold of Ben shortly after the events of the -10 movie, and states that he is actually an officer with the Nova Corps now. And after the events of -10, he took Ghost Freak and his lackeys into custody at the Nova Corps headquarters. Things end pretty well. Argent gets to say goodbye to the 5 aliens, and they say goodbye to Argent, thanking him for his kindness and giving them a place to stay, and showing that they can in fact get along if they really need to. Tetrax also offers them a ride ride to their home planets. They agree and state their thanks for Ben for saving their lives. And the movie essentially ends like that. Team Tennyson gets in the car and starts driving off to try and find more hybrid to try and take down. Archer goes back to being a type of weapons dealer on the side, mainly for the Forever Knights. And the movie ends. But we get 2 post-credit scenes. One of them is of the hybrid Grand Fleet, stating that the portal is almost ready. In a few months, our colonization of the Earth will begin. And then we cut to black. The second post-credit scene will actually lead into Infinity War. So, in this post-credit scene, we actually get to see an attack on the Nova Corps by Thanos and his army to obtain the Power Stone. This is Thanos' first march towards obtaining all the Infinity Stones for the Infinity Gauntlet. When he breaks in, Aggro Gore is shocked and terrified to see Thanos there. Thanos states that you may have betrayed me, but I will not end your life now. That will happen when I obtain what I was searching for. But he then goes to his particular cell and says, will you stay a prisoner or will you help me? Give me your answer now, Zaskar. And we see Ghost Freak. And then we cut to black again. Now I'm going to leave you guys off with a question. Should Ghost Freak go with Thanos, or should he stay in prison? How will the events of the hybrid invasion play out, and how will it end up affecting the inevitability of Infinity War? Let me know down below. And if you enjoyed this part, please like and subscribe and share this video. And like I said, get this video up to 100 likes, and I will bring part 4 out. And don't worry, it won't be as long as this one. And I hope you guys have an awesome day.